Bayard Rustin. A key but often overlooked figure in the civil rights movement. Early life. Bayard Rustin was born on March 17, 1912, in Westchester, Pennsylvania, to his parents Archie and Julia, but Rustin was mainly raised by his grandmother. Rustin's grandmother was heavily involved in social activism and the Quaker faith, both of which influenced his views on nonviolence and social justice. Who was Bayard Rustin? Everyone knows of Martin Luther King Jr., but not everyone knows about the man that inspired him. Bayard Rustin was many things: a black man, a pacifist, a homosexual, and a social activist. However, many say that one of the reasons he isn't as widely known is due to him struggling to balance his leadership roles across multiple organizations. According to Jervis Anderson, Rustin was caught in a tug-of-war between pacifism and black protest activism. Because of this, Dr. King was advised to cut all ties with Rustin in 1960. As a result, Rustin returned to working on peace campaigns as he slowly shifted away from mainstream civil rights activism. Historical and personal context. Rustin was known for his commitment to nonviolent activism. He was raised by his grandparents, who were always active in the NAACP. One of his most notable actions was taking on the role of chief organizer of the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his "I Have a Dream" speech. However, this was not widely known as he preferred to be in the background due to his sexuality. Rustin was a Quaker, pacifist, homosexual, and activist, as well as one of Dr. King's main advisors. He helped to shape the path that the civil rights movement took. Many do not know that Rustin was also an active supporter of international human rights and labor rights for all. Challenges and struggles. According to John D'Amelio, there was a correlation between Rustin's sexuality and his inability to obtain recognition in each campaign he took part in, beginning when he was incarcerated for objecting to the draft. Rustin continued a campaign for justice and equality within the prison system. However, many workers within prison administration gathered statements implicating Rustin in homosexual activities. This was used against Rustin to disrupt his anti-racial segregation campaign. Even worse was his arrest in 1953 for lewd vagrancy in Pasadena. Because of this, he was removed from practically all of his leadership roles, and he had to register as a sex offender. The Pasadena arrest proved to be a pivotal event in Rustin's life. The man many considered an exemplary prophet of nonviolence had been branded a sex offender and cast adrift from the cause to which he had devoted himself. It severely restricted the public roles he would be allowed to assume. Fun facts. Rustin lived as an openly gay man at a time when it was shunned and actually illegal. Rustin was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolent resistance. He believed that peaceful protest was the most powerful way to bring about social change. Rustin was a singer and sang in gospel choirs when he was younger. His voice helped inspire and bring people together at protests and rallies. One of the founders of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Significance of their work. Shaped the civil rights movement. Rustin's dedication to nonviolence and equality made him a key figure in the civil rights movement. Without his strategic planning, many important protests might not have happened. Global impact. His ideas about nonviolent protest inspired future leaders, such as those in South Africa and India, who used peaceful resistance to fight oppression. Changed social justice movements. His commitment to fighting for racial justice and equality for all has influenced countless other social justice movements worldwide. Bayard Rustin, Death and Legacy. Rustin lived out his final years in New York City, where he continued his work. He unfortunately passed away on August 24, 1987, at the age of 75 from a heart attack. Although Rustin was overlooked in the past, his legacy has started to be honored in recent years, including receiving a Presidential Medal of Freedom from former President Obama in 2013. Picture shows Walter Nagel accepting the medal on Rustin's behalf in 2013. Famous quotes. The proof that one truly believes is in action. A quote that expresses that actions speak louder than words. Let us be enraged about injustice, but let us not be destroyed by it. Encouraging people to show resilience while facing oppression. We need, in every community, a group of angelic troublemakers. Rustin believed that ordinary people could be the leaders of movements to create change. Video summary.
For this week's Hidden Histories, we look at one of the driving forces behind the civil rights movement. But because he was an openly gay man, he was often relegated to behind-the-scenes roles. August 28, 1963. About 250,000 people gathered in front of the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington, a powerful, peaceful demonstration. Martin Luther King's iconic extemporaneous words echoed down the Washington Mall to the Capitol, where Congress was considering the Civil Rights Act.
I have a dream. One day.
The architect of that moment also addressed the crowd that day, but has been virtually erased by history.
The first demand is that we have effective civil rights legislation, no compromise, no filibuster, and that it includes public accommodation, decent housing, integrated education, FAPC, and the right to vote. What do you say?
In less than 2 months, Bayard Rustin and his team organized the largest demonstration the country had ever seen. But Rustin was only credited as a deputy. As a gay man who did not hide his sexuality, he was not given high-profile roles. Rustin was raised in Pennsylvania by his grandparents. His grandmother affirmed his sexuality and instilled in him the Quaker values of nonviolence and peace. During World War II, those beliefs led him to become a conscientious objector and refused to register for the draft. He spent more than 2 years in prison for that. In 1947, he planned the Journey of Reconciliation, which would be the model for the 1960s Freedom Rides, challenging segregation on interstate buses. But Rustin paid a price for being open about his sexuality. He was kicked out of a leading pacifist group after a 1953 arrest when he was discovered having sex with another man in a car, sentenced to 60 days in jail, and required to register as a sex offender. But even behind the scenes, he contributed to key events of the civil rights movement, including the 1956 Montgomery bus boycott and the creation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In 1962, Rustin debated Malcolm X over the path and goals of the civil rights movement.
As we follow this form of mass action and strategic nonviolence, we will not only put pressure on the government, but we will put pressure on other groups which ought by their nature to be allied with us.
It wasn't until the late 1970s that Rustin got involved with the gay rights movement. Decades after his death, Rustin began to get the recognition denied him while he was alive. In 2020, California Governor Gavin Newsom pardoned him for his 1953 arrest and conviction. And earlier, in 2013, President Obama presented Walter Nagel, Rustin's longtime partner, with Rustin's posthumous Presidential Medal of Freedom, the country's highest civilian honor. For this week,
our sources. Thank you.